SBR Forum's Punters is brought to you by Bookmaker.
We are previewing Week 7 in the NFL here at SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak, and we're talking right now to regular contributor John Ryan from JohnRyanSports.com. John, thanks for being here with me and talking about a few late NFL games here.
Always a pleasure, Peter.
All right, it's Thursday right now. We're going to talk about the Giants and Washington. I asked you to discuss this game. Now, Washington opened as a 7-point underdog on the road, and a lot of people sort of jumped on that line, thought it had value, and indeed, it's moved down to 5.5. The question is now whether the line at this point still has any value in any direction. There's a lot of conflicting factors here. I mean, the Redskins actually swept the Giants last year, and that's mostly because Eli Manning played terribly against them in both games. But Washington has the worst pass defense in the league this year, and Eli Manning, of course, is playing well. And you look at, the Giants going into San Francisco and just crushing them on the road, and now they're only giving 5.5 to Washington here. I don't know what to think about this line. What do you think?
It's a tough line, Peter, but I'll start the conversation with the fact that the NFL for 2 decades now has wanted parity.
Yes.
And this season now marks the greatest parity through 6 weeks in the history of the NFL since they went to the divisional format that they have now in 2002. We have 11 of the 32 teams right now with 3-3 records.
Yeah.
And that eclipsed the previous record set in 2007 of having 7 teams at 3-3. Remarkably, in the AFC, we have only two teams with winning records. And there's 7 of those 11 3-3 teams in the AFC. So if we look at the NFC East, we see that the Giants are leading the division comfortably, as crazy as it sounds, with a 4-2 record. And Washington and Philadelphia are chasing with 3-3 records. So I think what we have here is we're going to have more situations where a team like the Giants can look like Super Bowl champs and contenders, having demolished the 49ers last week, now playing at home to a team that arguably on paper they really should beat handily based on what we saw last week. So I think what we have this season is more of a contrarian type of approach. And when one team looks good, I think you almost have to assume that they're not going to have great back-to-back weeks.
Right.
And that's exactly what the parity in the NFL is. On any given Sunday, Monday, or Thursday, I'm almost at the point now where I almost look at the dogs when I'm unsure of a game.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the NFC, you know this stat, right? Everyone's talking about this stat. I think the underdogs are like 90% against the spread all year this year in the NFC, I think.
Yeah, and we know that that'll even out, of course, and you know that too. That
Sure.
Somewhere, the NFC is going to have a 7-0 weekend.
Will it even out? Will it even out to 50%, or will it even out to the dogs just covering 60% of the time or 65% of the time? I mean, that's the thing.
The lead that the dogs have, it would be hard to imagine that they're not going to have the lead after 16 or 17 weeks.
Right.
But again, with this parity being the way it is, 11 teams at 3-3, and honestly, Peter, if you look at New England is the best 3-3 team you could ever imagine seeing, and yet you have other teams that are 3-3 that don't even belong being 3-3.
Yeah.
So that adds difficulty to the equation. But I think if people start, if you want to, take advantage of the situation, if you use a contrarian approach, which in this case would be lean on Washington instead of taking the favorite, especially when they're coming off the best game of the year.
Yeah.
And that certainly was the Giants' best performance since winning the Super Bowl. We have a game tonight with the 49ers. Same situation. They got demolished last week. They're playing Seattle, who beat the Patriots. So the public's on Seattle. I myself will be on the 49ers.
Really? Wow. Yeah. We talked about that game earlier in the week. Yeah, I guess I'm personally, there's no way I'm betting aside in this one, although if you gave me a free play on it, I would take Washington still at plus 5.5, and then maybe the over 50. If Manning has a big game and Griffin has a big game, that'll probably go over, right?
Oh, I would agree. If Washington covers or wins, you take the over.
Okay.
I definitely agree with that.
Great preview, John. Thanks.